Hi, this is Manjit Mohil. Towards the end of 1497, Vasco da Gama rounded Cape of Good Hope and arrived in Calicut the following year. The Portuguese, defeating Arabs and driving them out, established themselves at various strategic points along the Indian coast. Their expansion was fueled by both military power and the internal conflicts among local rulers, which often worked to their advantage. The Portuguese constructed numerous colonies and fortified coastal forts to secure their positions. These forts proved difficult to conquer, as they were continuously resupplied by sea. The Portuguese frequently launched attacks on neighboring states, devastating their coastlines. At that time, none of the native Indian kingdom possessed a formidable naval force capable of halting Portuguese advance. The Portuguese also established numerous settlements along the shores of Indian Ocean. By 1600, they had around 50 fortified settlements on the Indian Ocean, including Sofala, Mozambique, Mombasa, and other locations along the eastern coast of Africa. They also established settlements in Muscat in the Gulf of Oman, on the west coast of India in Mannar, Negombo and Colombo in Sri Lanka, and in Malacca on the western coast of Malaysia. With these settlements beyond Portugal, the King of Portugal styled himself as an emperor, considering the inhabitants of these territories his subjects. The King of Portugal enforced a licensing system known as cartazes for any vessel wishing to sail in the waters they controlled. The state issued a limited number of these licenses, thereby controlling the trade. There were no exceptions. Even royal families such as Mughals, Adil Shahi, and Qutub Shahi had to purchase cartazes to navigate these waters. The Portuguese colonies, stretching from the Cape of Good Hope to Macau, formed their Indian empire known as Estado da India. The chief administrative officer of this vast territory was Viceroy, appointed by King of Portugal. He was assisted and advised in state affairs by Council of Administrators, which included Archbishop of Goa. In the event of Viceroy's death, a sealed envelope provided by King himself would be opened, revealing the name of interim Viceroy to serve until a new appointment was made. The capital of Portuguese Indian Empire was Goa, situated on the southern bank of Mandvi River, approximately 10 kilometers east of Panji. Well, this Goa is not the Goa which we know today. It was just one of the small city in today's Goa. In 1759, the capital was shifted from Goa to Panji, which was then renamed Nova Goa, while the old capital became known as Vella Citade da Goa, or Old City of Goa. This extensive empire was divided into three parts: northern, central, and southern. The northern part included Diu and coast from Par River to Karanje and Chaul. The central part comprised of island of Goa, Bardesh, and Sashti. The southern part included Honavar, Gangoli, Basur, Kannur, Mangalore, Kochi, and Kollam. Corruption was rampant at all levels. Positions were not awarded based on merit but were sold to the highest bidder. It is said that during a financial crisis in 1614, the king himself ordered an auction of posts. The Portuguese were undoubtedly a formidable force on the seas. In the early years, their ships were built to carry up to 400 tons of cargo. By 16th century, they had expanded to accommodate between 1000 to 1500 tons. Although these were primarily cargoes, they were armed with cannons for the protection from pirates and from other enemies. The Portuguese fleet consisted of three different types of fighting ships: galiots, galleons, and galleys. The empire had around 100 galiots, which were primarily sail-powered but also could be rowed. Each galleot typically carried 30 to 40 sailors, 20 to 30 soldiers, and small cannons. Galleys were larger than galiots and could be propelled by both sails and oars if necessary. Galleons were even bigger, with a capacity of 700 to 800 tons, manned by 200 sailors, an equal number of soldiers, and armed with around 60 to 70 cannons. These ships were exclusively sail-powered. Portuguese ships were constructed in Daman, Vasai, and Goa, where high-quality teak wood was available. The primary naval base of Portuguese in India was situated in Goa. It boasted a fleet of 80 to 90 galleots, along with several galleys and 5 to 6 galleons. This formidable fleet was divided into three parts, each responsible for patrolling distinct regions. The first division, known as Armada do Norte, or Northern Fleet, patrolled the waters from Goa to Khambayat in Gujarat. The second division, called Armada do Canara, safeguarded the southern settlement of Portuguese in Karnataka and Kerala, extended from Goa. The third division, the Armada do Cabo Camorin, named after the Portuguese mispronunciation of Kanyakumari, patrolled the waters of Goa to Kanyakumari and Kochi, occasionally reaching as far as Sri Lanka. The crew of these ships were predominantly recruited from Portugal, with a significant portion consisting of outlaws who were sent to India to serve sentences of about 8 years. This led to a notorious reputation for Goa, with contemporaneous writers noting that Goa had become unsafe after sunset because of them. In total, there were approximately 3 to 4,000 soldiers and 5 to 6,000 sailors serving in the Portuguese Navy in Goa, with around 1,000 always available on standby. Despite its considerable presence, the Portuguese Navy in India was not as large as the naval forces of Dutch and English. Nonetheless, their influence was profound, causing significant disruption to the cultural and social fabric of the region where they established their colonies. The military strength of Portuguese in India may not have been overwhelming, but their strategic coastal forts and uninterrupted supply lines via sea rendered them a formidable power for a considerable period of time. In north, their fortification included those at Diu, Daman, Sanjan, Asheri, Vasai, Karanja and Chaul. Among these, Asheri was the sole hill fort, while the rest were coastal strongholds. A garrison of 500 soldiers was stationed at the fort of Diu, 80 at Daman, 300 at Asheri, 600 at Sanjan, 100 at Karanje, and about 50 at Moro de Chol, known today as Korlai. Additionally, some affluent Portuguese residents in these settlements built towers and manors, maintaining their own armed personnel. The total strength of Portuguese soldiers in the north was around 1800, complemented by 5,000 armed civilians. This network of forts, along with support of armed residents, ensured that the Portuguese maintained a significant presence and control over their territories despite their relatively modest military numbers. Similarly, the Portuguese military presence was organized into central and southern divisions, with Goa serving as the focal point of central region. Goa was strategically positioned between two rivers, the Mandvi to the north and Zuari to the south. The area north of Mandvi, known as Bardesh, and the region south of Zuari, called Sashti, were both under Portuguese control. The territory encompassing Goa was referred to as Tiswadi. Two major forts guarded these crucial areas: Fort Aguada in Bardesh and directly opposite Nosa Senora do Cobo, meaning Our Lady of Cape, on Goa Island. Additionally, the fort of Panji stood on the southern banks of Mandvi, reinforcing the Portuguese stronghold. In the southern region, several small forts protected Portuguese settlements. Although their military strength in India was not vast, their naval prowess made them a formidable force. The Portuguese initially came to India as traders, or rather, I should say, under the guise of traders. However, a closer examination of their activities reveals a different agenda. They conducted widespread conversions of the native population, often backed by force or financial incentives. Many local places of worship were demolished, and natives were prohibited from celebrating their festivals or even performing traditional funeral rites within Portuguese territory. Instead, they had to travel to neighboring Adil Shahi territory for such rituals. Orphans were automatically converted, and over time, this led to a generation of converts who forgot their ancestral tradition, severing their ties to their history and culture. This situation called for a hero, someone brave enough to stand up and protect the natives, someone with the genius to right these wrongs. That someone was none other than Shivaji Maharaj. I will stop my story here today. This is Manjit Mohral, signing off.